Aram Hampayan, the Executive Director of the ANC Washington Bureau, is with us tonight. Aram, good evening.
Good evening, Manu.
It's late night at Washington, D.C., and I'm hearing you've got about 55 inches of snow there. Is that correct?
It is true. It's been a
So I think you're enjoying the snow, but you're not enjoying the cold weather as much. Anyways, back to our tonight's issue, and the main issue is that we had already talked during the last couple days and couple weeks about the impending meeting with the Secretary of State, Mrs. Clinton. But of course, today the ANCA has some concerns, or actually had some concerns about the organizations that were invited. And today the AAA and the AGBU are coming up with a statement. Within that statement, it's kind of as if it seems to be the ANC is being blamed for blocking this meeting. I think the only side or the only organization that shouldn't be blamed is being blamed. What would you say about this?
Manu, I think what we're seeing are some very clear lines being drawn in our community between those like the ANCA that believe in inclusion and those, unfortunately, like the Assembly and it would seem some of the leaders of the AGBU who believe in exclusion as an approach to political discourse, political dialogue. There are those who want to move our community forward, who want to open the doors to greater participation by every demographic, every geographic dynamic in our community, and others who want to hold us back and kind of drag us back into some of the old feuds of decades and decades ago. And that's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. But I think that we've been on the right side of this issue. We've always argued from day one for an inclusive approach. Every request that we put into this administration has been for a meeting of our community's leadership, our collective leadership. We've never asked for meetings just for ourselves or just for people who agree with us. So I feel very comfortable that we're on the right side of this issue, Manu.
We don't have any doubts about that, but strange enough, their statement says or states that they were open to any independent, so-called independent voices in that meeting. What is that supposed to mean, and why are not actually open to those independent voices?
It's really a very curious phrase, independent voices. The way that the meeting was arranged was that 5 of the 6 organizations present would represent a pro-protocols point of view, and they were open to, I guess, adding to that list by including more people who are pro-protocols. I think that's perhaps what they mean by independent. What we see as independent is people who have an authentic stake, an authentic voice, an authentic ability to represent our community at the grassroots level. The exclusion of the prelacy, of the Catholic Church, our evangelical brothers, the exclusion of the Armenian Relief Society, and many, many other groups was absolutely unacceptable. And the thought that an Armenian organization would use its leverage to block other Armenian organizations, not to lift them up, not to open the doors for them, but to hold them back and to drag them down. It's really remarkable, and it's a symbol of, I think, some leadership that's really, really lost touch with our community. This, frankly, doesn't come as much of a surprise regarding the Assembly, because they typically carry the State Department's water and typically try to marginalize the more principled and authentic voices of the community. It does come as a bit more of a surprise from the AGBU, which has traditionally steered clear of politics. It would seem now that they have some folks in charge who are really politicizing the organization, which is very unfortunate. The HBU has a proud, charitable record. It's got a great history. We're all proud of the work of the Manoukian family and the HBU for the years. But it's very unfortunate that they've decided to, let themselves get dragged into this terrible situation.
And the least could be said about this situation or this stance is that it's not understandable. Anyways, I think the only definition or the only description that comes to my mind for this situation and for this move is suspicious. On top of that, there are some allegations there that the ANC refused to participate in a meeting in the Armenian embassy prior to the meeting with the State Department and the Secretary of State. What about those allegations?
Okay, let me just review the facts. As early as August of this year, we started asking for meetings with the Secretary of State. We put those requests in writing, and we always asked for it to be a meeting with our civic, advocacy, charitable, and religious leadership. We were always asking for a broad-based meeting. We pushed that in meetings. Eventually, we got feedback that there would be a meeting. I believe that was close to November, I believe. We then sent a note to all the Armenian organizations saying, let's get ready for this meeting. It's going to come soon. Let's all prepare a common front, a common message, and let's meet beforehand so that we can coordinate the meeting so that we present a common and united front to the Secretary. That was very open on our part, very sort of sincere outreach on our part. The Assembly now is saying that we've refused to meet at the embassy. I think that I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to get at here, but when we meet as Armenian American organizations, are meeting essentially as American citizens, shareholders in the American government, and the voice that we bring to our Secretary of State is the voice of American citizens who care deeply about Armenian issues. I'm not sure that the right approach is to hold a pre-meeting at the Armenian embassy, which is obviously holds great meaning for us, but is ultimately a foreign government. And if we are going to meet and if we are going to coordinate, I think that needs to be done among Armenian American organizations. We certainly welcome the input, the advice, the counsel of everybody, including the embassy and others. But ultimately, the voice that we represent is the voice of the Armenian American community. So I think that the embassy would not be the right place to hold a pre-meeting. We could have a meeting at the ANC office or some other location.
And it seems, Aram, that some of the organizations need some lessons about political action and political activities and how to act like American citizens and so on. I don't want to go further, but I have an assumption. I assume all those requests, the meeting and political requests that were presented by the ANC are documented, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. We have been tremendously open, Mahmoud. Our operations are transparent. The letters that we've sent to the Secretary, we've shared with our community. Once we heard news about the meeting, we wrote letters to 20 different organizations explaining what we had learned. When we heard about the meeting being very narrow in scope, we wrote an open letter to the Secretary. Everything all across the board on our part has been very open. I think that the people who have been playing games behind the scenes are in the Assembly, and in this case, the leadership of the EGBU. I was very glad that neither the diocese of the Armenian Church nor the Knights of Archon signed this most recent letter, because it was frankly an embarrassment. And I'll just give you sort of a personal aside here about it. Some of these games are reminiscent of sort of very old feuds that used to characterize Armenian American political life, going back decades and decades. And it would seem to me that the Tariq Ramadanis and maybe it appears the Bered Satakians, even the Yerevan Tazadians of the world, are sort of living in the past and fighting these old battles that they perhaps still bear some bitterness over. Maybe they felt they were treated fairly, but they're dragging the rest of this community back decades and decades, fighting these old stupid wars when our community has moved beyond these conflicts. Our community is worried about strengthening ties between the U.S. and Armenia. The community is concerned about a free Karabakh, justice for the genocide. These are the concerns of our community, not who's in, who's out. How do we sort of stick it to the other guy? That's really a very much of a loser mentality, and these guys have got to really catch up with the rest of the community and stop burdening us with their baggage.